Hi to secondary students and parents. I hope that each of you are doing well and staying safe within your homes. Today marks the end of our 5th week on the distance learning platform. The transition hasn't been without its struggles, and the added component of confinement at home has undoubtedly had an impact on all of us in the ANS community alike. This being said, I'd like to start off by saying thank you and expressing my gratitude to each of you and my pride in how you've handled this crisis, how you've overcome obstacles, and how you've supported one another in an effort to give your very best every single day. ANS is certainly future ready. When we launched our DLP in mid-March, many of our classes, if not all, were in the middle of units of study. We had upcoming assessments that had to be administered at a distance, but we had had ample time inside the classroom for students and teachers to engage in conversations and demonstrate their learning in the best way possible through conferencing and direct contact with teachers and classmates. Today we have a different scenario. Today, any upcoming assessment for the remainder of the school year has been 100% introduced, taught, formatively tracked, and assessed as part of the distance learning model. Early on in the DLP, students had those opportunities to demonstrate learning in the classroom, as well as equal access to resources, internet connections, devices, texts, articles, and teachers' time. Now, however, that equity to resources varies from student to student. Internet access is different in each household. Tutorial time is limited because teachers are only able to offer a certain amount of hours a day to students, as well as even those outside tutorials that many held as a valued resource have been suspended. Support at home and from classroom varies from house to house, and the emotional impact of quarantine and the uncertain future has its own different impact on each and every one of us. So the ability that students have to demonstrate their learning is now drastically different. While a strong transition plan to distance learning, like the one I am exceptionally proud of ANS for providing, minimizes impact on learning, it would be remiss of us not to acknowledge that an impact has been had, and we as a school have to acknowledge that impact and look forward to minimizing how that can be reflected on the grading and reporting of our students' learning. Experts in the field of education began this debate well before we even launched our distance learning platform, when schools all around the world already had closed their doors and longer periods of distance learning had been in effect. Thomas Guskey, who's a professor at the University of Louisville and a leading researcher and renowned expert in assessment and teaching and learning, whom we had the privilege of hosting at ANS several years ago, and on whose research much of our assessment reform at the secondary level hinges, has led webinars in the need to consider alternative modes of assessment and grading, along with Leanne Jung, a professor at the University of San Diego and a worldwide consultant on inclusion and interdisciplinary learning, and Ken O'Connor, a worldwide consultant and specialist on communicating student achievement, such as grading and reporting. Worldwide, educators are believing that in the face of adverse circumstances, especially the ones that we're living with, unequivocally fall into this category, creative solutions have been found, must be found. Universities across the United States, such as MIT, the University of Massachusetts, Boston College, the University of Wisconsin, Duke, Georgetown, they have immediately implemented a pass-fail program for their entire semester, recognizing the impact on student learning and offering students an opportunity to not be negatively impacted in their reporting. From August to mid-March, as I mentioned earlier, students have been able to amply demonstrate their learning in the classroom. For this reason, we will not transition to a pass-fail system as a final grade, nor will pass-fail appear on transcripts or report cards. Final grades for this semester are going to continue to be calculated numerically and represented as such on a report card and on a student's GPA, following our standard grading and reporting system, which can be found in our parent-student handbook on the ANS website. However, in light of our current circumstances, we will be making a grading adjustment for the final assessment or assessments of the distance learning program. Because we recognize the impact confinement has had on our students, because we recognize an inevitable lack of equity is real, and because we recognize student learning is our primary focus, and it is our job to help students take that same focus. The secondary team will use a pass, fail, or pass with distinction scale exclusively for the final assessments of the school year. Teachers will explicitly discuss and describe in detail for our students during their synchronous time on Monday and Tuesday how these are going to be represented on their rubrics and how they will be assessed for their final grade or summative of the semester. In a very general sense, they will follow the following guide. A pass with distinction will be roughly converted to an A or a B on a traditional rubric. This will appear in Reddiker as a PD, pass with distinction. A pass in Reddiker, denoted as a P, will be given or granted to those typically earning a C on a traditional rubric. Those who earn or obtain a D or an F will be administered a fail, represented with an F and calculated in Reddiker. Reddiker will automatically make the numerical calculations. A pass with distinction will be averaged in as a 100 on that summative. A pass will be calculated as an 86 on that summative, and a fail will be calculated as a 59, exclusively on the final summatives of the semester. I would like to emphasize that the PD, P, or F, pass with distinction, pass, or fail, will not appear on any report card or transcript, nor will it be the final calculated grade for the year or for the semester. They're going to be reported on Reddiker in the same way that our numerical grades are usually reported for a summative. And then Reddiker will automatically calculate them according to the scale that I previously mentioned. We are committed to ensuring the criteria we establish on these rubrics are clear, they are rigorous, and they are attainable. And then doing everything in our power to help all students meet those criteria. In so doing, we make the best of these difficult and trying times. Shortly after receiving the newsletter, I will follow up with an email to all secondary parents and students with this same information and the grading conversion included. And you can also contact me at any time to set up an individual appointment or to ask any individual questions. Please trust that in making this change, we are keeping our students and our students' learning and our students' social, emotional well-being at the forefront of our minds and our hearts as we conclude our semester. Thank you.